The rundown triple-decker was ablaze in a matter of minutes. Trapped inside, children screamed. Onlookers were desperate to help, but the flames were too strong. One bystander, a young Puerto Rican man named Victor Rosario, shattered a front window with his right fist, but the deadly heat kicked him back. 4 bodies, a mother and her 3 baby boys, were later discovered on the first floor. 4 more blackened corpses on the third. Arson was strongly suspected. Lowell police swiftly found a prime suspect. Just 48 hours after the fire, Rosario, the 24-year-old bystander, was detained. After 6 hours of questioning, he signed a statement saying he and 2 friends threw Molotov cocktails into the building as revenge for a botched drug deal. Rosario would be convicted of arson in 8 murders and sentenced to life in prison. But a recent investigation for the Boston Globe has found a series of grave shortcomings in the case, findings that raise serious questions about Rosario's conviction.
All indications that was an arson fire.
From the beginning, Harold Waterhouse, the lead arson inspector in the case, has stuck to his conclusion. Victor Rosario had been spotted outside the apartment before the fire, a witness told Waterhouse. And by midnight Saturday, Waterhouse had Rosario at the station facing questions. By dawn, Rosario had signed a confession saying he and 2 friends had burned down the house using Molotov cocktails made from Miller beer bottles, rags, and gasoline. But there are obvious flaws with this story. There was no evidence at the fire scene of Molotov cocktails, and arson experts who recently examined the trial record say Waterhouse's conclusion that the fire had been arson was driven by assumptions that are now considered little more than junk science. Almost all the evidence, the experts say, could also be consistent with an accidental fire. Waterhouse, now 79, is unimpressed with any second guessing of his work.
I was an expert in my day, and my conclusion was that it was arson, and I will never change my mind on that.
During Rosario's 6-hour police interrogation, he was distraught and became hysterical, falling to his knees at one point, weeping and crying for God, according to police records and the trial testimony. In a recent prison interview, Rosario says he was hallucinating during the interrogation.
What I saw, it was like a demons around me. It was like a demons, so it was like a hell open up.
Over that night and then into the following morning, he was floridly psychotic.
Dr. Judith Edersheim is a forensic psychiatrist who recently interviewed Rosario about that night. She says he was experiencing alcohol withdrawal.
He could not recall a single day of sobriety since approximately age 10.
Edersheim says his psychotic visions were typical withdrawal symptoms, a condition called delirium tremens.
Smelling things, hearing things, seeing things, and feeling things that weren't there.
No, he wasn't out of his mind. You know, if he was out of his mind, the interpreter would have had something to say besides that.
The interpreter, Ramon Nieves, long supported Waterhouse's account of the interrogation, but he now offers a dramatically different story. In a recent sworn affidavit, he says that police took advantage of an incoherent Rosario.
If he's recanting his story now, he's just feeling sorry for Rosario.
My conclusion about the confession is that he could not have made a coherent and rational statement about anything.
A day after the confession, local viewers saw this WCVB news broadcast showing Rosario being arraigned on the arson and murder charges.
I signed the papers thinking that I was going home. That was my thought. I was my thought thinking that if I sign this piece of paper, I can go home and get over with this.
Today, the house on Decatur Street is gone. No one has ever built on the ground where 8 people died. Rosario, now 52, has spent the majority of his life in prison. His appeals have failed, and he's been denied parole because he refuses to take responsibility for the fire. There are other inconsistencies that further weaken the case against Rosario as he waits for his latest appeal to begin.
I know in my heart, I know in my mind, my soul, we're never capable to do something like that.
While modern arson science and the irregularities in Rosario's case do not clear him of wrongdoing, they do strongly suggest that someone is serving a life sentence for a crime no one can be sure he committed.